Blood drained from my sister's face as I placed my phone on the kitchen table. Screen up, showing the messages her husband had sent me over the past year. Messages no brother-in-law should ever send to his wife's sister. "You're lying," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the gentle hum of the refrigerator. "This is photoshopped. You've always been jealous of what we have." I said nothing as Sarah picked up my phone with trembling hands. Her wedding ring caught the afternoon light streaming through the bay windows of her Portland suburban home, the home she'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford, while Richard found himself professionally. The home that had witnessed 15 years of what she believed was a perfect marriage. "You destroyed our family," she had said just moments before, her voice laced with venom, eyes burning with hatred I'd never seen directed at me in our 40 years as sisters. "Coming here with your accusations, your jealousy." But I hadn't spoken a single accusation. I simply showed her the evidence. Sarah scrolled through the messages, her perfectly manicured nails, done for the charity gala she and Richard were supposed to attend that evening, now tapping frantically against my screen. I watched her face transform as the timestamps revealed a pattern spanning months. The request to meet when she was traveling for work, the comments about my body, the late-night confessions. Outside, rain began to patter against the windows, typical Oregon weather that matched the storm brewing inside. I'd flown across the country from my Boston apartment with a knot in my stomach, knowing this moment would shatter my sister's carefully constructed reality. But the alternative, staying silent, wasn't an option anymore. Not after Richard's behavior at Dad's funeral last month. "Why?" she finally asked, looking up with eyes brimming with tears that refused to fall. Sarah had always been the strong one, the composed one, the successful corporate attorney who never showed weakness. "Why are you showing me this now?" The grandfather clock in the hallway, a wedding gift from our parents, chimed 4 times. 4 o'clock. Richard would be home in an hour, because he's gotten worse, I said softly, reaching across the table. She recoiled from my touch. "Sarah, what happened at Dad's funeral was the final straw, when he cornered me in Mom's bathroom." I trailed off, the memory still fresh and nauseating. He was drunk at the funeral. We were all emotional. Her defense was automatic, practiced. How many times had she made excuses for him? "I have that on video too," I said quietly. "He didn't know Mom's new bathroom has a security camera after the break-in last year." Sarah's body went rigid. Her defense attorney persona slipped into place. I could practically see her mind working, looking for reasonable doubt, any alternative explanation. "Show me," she demanded. I hesitated. "It's not just inappropriate texts, Sarah. He tried to..." I couldn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. The first tear finally escaped, tracking a path down her cheekbone. "Show me." As I pulled up the video, a car door slammed in the driveway. Sarah's head snapped up, her eyes wide with panic. "He's home early," she whispered. The sound of keys jangling at the front door echoed through the house. Sarah quickly handed my phone back, frantically wiping her tears. "Not a word," she hissed. "I need to think." Richard's voice boomed through the house. "Babe, whose Toyota is that in the driveway?" He appeared in the kitchen doorway, his charming smile faltering slightly when he saw me. At 52, Richard Bennett still had the handsome features and athletic build that had made him the catch of Portland 15 years ago. His confidence had always bordered on arrogance. "Elizabeth?" he said, recovering quickly. "What a surprise." I met his gaze steadily, my heart pounding. "Hello, Richard." Sarah stood abruptly, knocking her chair backward. "Richard, we need to talk." Her voice had a brittle quality I'd never heard before. "Can it wait, babe? I need to shower before the gala." His eyes darted between us, sensing tension, but not yet understanding his world was about to implode. "No," Sarah said, her lawyer voice now in full effect. "It absolutely cannot wait." As she took a step toward him, I saw something in my sister I'd never witnessed before. A quiet, terrible fury that had been awakened after years of dormancy. In that moment, I realized I'd never truly known the depths of Sarah's strength. Richard looked at me, then back at my sister, comprehension slowly dawning across his features. And for the first time since I'd known him, I saw naked fear in Richard Bennett's eyes. "My name is Elizabeth Winters. Liz to everyone except my sister, who insisted on using my full name since we were children. At 45, I've spent most of my adult life defined by what I am not, Not married, not a mother, not settled in one place for more than a few years. A traveling photographer who specializes in wildlife conservation projects, I've captured endangered species across 6 continents, but somehow failed to capture what most would consider a normal life. Sarah, 3 years my senior, had always been the golden child. Valedictorian, Stanford Law, married to her college sweetheart by 30, partner at her firm by 35. Our parents never said it outright, but the comparison hung between us at every family gathering. "When are you going to settle down, Elizabeth?" Mom would ask, while Dad would simply sigh and change the subject. My 1-bedroom apartment in Boston served as little more than storage for the belongings I couldn't fit in my suitcase. The walls were decorated with my photographs: a pride of lions in the Serengeti, sea turtles in the Galapagos, a family of orangutans in Borneo. The faces of endangered creatures looked back at me instead of children or a spouse. I'd flown into Portland 3 days ago for what was supposed to be a brief visit with Sarah. We'd been trying to reconnect after Dad's funeral. Grief has a way of reminding you what matters. Mom had moved to Florida to live with her sister. The family home in Connecticut sold to pay for Dad's final medical expenses. It felt like the dismantling of our childhood, piece by piece. That morning, Sarah had called me at my hotel, her voice unusually strained. "Can you come over? I need to talk to you about something." I arrived to find her pacing the kitchen, still in her silk pajamas at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, unheard of for workaholic Sarah. "I found something on Richard's computer," she'd said without preamble. "Emails to a divorce attorney." I'd stayed silent, uncertain how to respond. Sarah and Richard had always presented the image of perfect marital bliss. Sunday brunches, anniversary trips to wine country, charming Christmas cards featuring the 2 of them in coordinated outfits on some exotic beach. "He's claiming I'm emotionally unavailable," she continued, her voice hollow. "That I'm married to my job. That I've neglected him for years." I watched her pour coffee with a shaking hand. This woman who argued cases before the Supreme Court, reduced to trembling over her husband's betrayal. "What are you going to do?" I asked carefully. That's when Sarah had turned on me, her grief morphing instantly to rage. "Why aren't you more surprised?" she demanded. "Unless you knew. Did you know he was unhappy? Has he talked to you about this?" The accusation hit like a physical blow. "No, Sarah. I had no idea. You 2 always got along so well," she said, suspicion darkening her features. "All those times he picked you up from the airport when I was working. Those dinners you had when I was too busy. Sarah, those were just... You've been talking behind my back, haven't you?" Poor Sarah, so obsessed with her career she can't see her marriage falling apart. Her words escalated, each one more painful than the last, until finally she'd hurled the accusation that broke something between us. "You destroyed our family." That's when I'd placed my phone on the table, the evidence I'd been carrying for months, unsure what to do with it. The inappropriate messages had started after Dad got sick last year. At first, I thought Richard was just seeking emotional support during a difficult time. Then the comments became increasingly personal, increasingly inappropriate. I'd blocked his number after the funeral incident, changed my email, told him clearly to never contact me again, but I'd saved everything, some instinct warning me that Sarah would need to see the truth someday. I never imagined that day would come so soon, or that I would be cast as the villain before becoming the reluctant messenger. Now, as Richard stood in the doorway of the kitchen, I could see the calculations running behind his eyes, the practiced charm, the ability to spin any situation to his advantage, traits that made him successful in real estate and, apparently, in hiding his true nature from his wife. Sarah stood rigid between us, her back to me, facing her husband. I couldn't see her expression, but I could see his as he registered the dangerous shift in the atmosphere. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice carefully modulated to project confusion and concern. Sarah said nothing, but held out her hand toward me, palm up, without turning around. Understanding her silent request, I placed my phone in her hand. "I think you should see these messages your husband has been sending me," she said, her voice eerily calm as she turned the screen toward him. "And explain why my sister has a video of you assaulting her at my father's funeral." The color drained from Richard's face, the same way it had from Sarah's earlier. For a brief, surreal moment, I saw their resemblance, 2 people confronting the collapse of their carefully constructed facades. "Sarah, whatever she's shown you is taken out of context," he started, his tone reasonable, persuasive, the voice that had closed countless real estate deals. "You know how Elizabeth has always had a flair for drama." My sister laughed, a sharp, brittle sound that seemed to physically cut the air between them. "Don't," she said. "I've defended you for years, made excuses, worked myself to exhaustion to give us the life you wanted while you were finding your passion. And all this time, it's not what it looks like," Richard insisted, taking a step toward her. Sarah held up her hand, stopping him in his tracks. "I'm a litigator, Richard. I cross-examine witnesses for a living. Would you like to be sworn in before you perjure yourself in my kitchen?" The grandfather clock continued its relentless ticking, marking the seconds of Richard's silence as he realized the depth of his miscalculation. "Sarah," I said softly from behind her, "maybe I should go." "No," she replied without turning. "You've been carrying this burden alone. You don't have to leave. He does." "Sarah, be reasonable," Richard said, his voice dropping to that soothing tone he used when trying to calm difficult clients. "Let's discuss this privately. Family matters should stay in the family. That's rich, coming from you," Sarah replied, her shoulders squared beneath her silk pajama top. "Was it family matters when you propositioned my sister? When you put your hands on her at my father's funeral?" Richard's eyes darted to me, a flash of anger quickly replaced by something more calculated. "Elizabeth has always misunderstood our relationship. We joke around. It's harmless." I felt sick. The same gaslighting he'd attempted when I confronted him after the funeral. The messages on my phone told a different story. Persistent, explicit, unanswered for months until I finally blocked him. Sarah scrolled through the messages, her lawyer's mind cataloging dates and times. This one was sent while I was in Chicago for the Westlake deposition. She looked up. "You told me you were helping Mom clear out Dad's workshop that weekend." Richard shifted strategies instantly. "I've been unhappy, Sarah. You're never home. When was the last time we actually connected? Had a real conversation?" I watched my sister absorb this blow, the classic tactic of shifting blame to the victim. For a moment, doubt flickered across her features. "You're right," she said quietly, and Richard's posture relaxed slightly, sensing a foothold. "I have been absent, building the life you said you wanted." She set my phone down on the counter with deliberate care. "Remember our first apartment? That studio in Buckman with the leaky faucet and the neighbor who practiced saxophone at midnight?" Richard nodded cautiously, uncertain where this was going. "You said we needed to move, needed more space, a better neighborhood. So I took on extra cases, worked weekends." Sarah's voice remained even, controlled. "Then it was the house in Selwood that wasn't quite right. Then this one, the vacation property in Bend, the boat, the country club membership." She gestured around the gleaming kitchen with its marble countertops and professional-grade appliances. "Everything I've built while you were finding yourself professionally, jumping from real estate to startup investments to that wine import business that failed. Each time you said you just needed support. Time. Understanding." Richard's jaw tightened. "So this is about money? You're throwing 15 years away over money?" "No," Sarah said, her voice softening to something almost like pity. "This is about you betraying me in the most painful way possible. With my only sister. The accusation hung between us like a physical presence. I wanted to protest, to clarify that nothing had happened, that I'd rebuffed him at every turn. But this moment belonged to Sarah. Her revelation, her pain, her right to process this however she needed. Nothing happened between us," Richard insisted, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair, the gesture he used when testifying in court about property valuations, all earnest sincerity. "Elizabeth is twisting things." Sarah turned to me for the first time since Richard had entered, her expression unreadable. "Is that true? Are you lying about this?" The question struck like a physical blow. After everything, she could still doubt me. "No, Sarah. I would never—" "Because if you're lying," she continued as if I hadn't spoken, "now would be the time to admit it, before this goes any further." I stared at my sister, this stranger who could believe, even for a moment, that I would fabricate something so destructive. "The messages are real. The video is real. I've never lied to you, Sarah." She held my gaze for a long moment before nodding once. Decision made. She turned back to Richard. "I want you out of this house. Tonight." "You can't be serious," he scoffed. "This is my home too. My name is on the deed." "Actually, it isn't," Sarah replied, and something in her tone made both Richard and me go very still. "I kept the house in my name only. Remember the refinance last year? The papers you signed without reading because you were late for golf? Richard's face flushed with anger. You tricked me? I protected myself, Sarah corrected. Women's intuition, perhaps. Or maybe just the fact that you left your email open on our shared iPad 3 years ago. The one where you were asking your friend David how to hide assets in case of divorce. The revelation seemed to physically rock Richard back on his heels. You've known for 3 years? I suspected, Sarah clarified. But I wanted to believe I was wrong. That the man I married, the man I've loved for 15 years, wouldn't betray me. Her voice finally cracked on the last word. I guess we were both living with illusions. Richard's charm vanished entirely, replaced by cold calculation. This won't end well for you, Sarah. I've contributed to this marriage. I have rights. Yes, you do, she agreed. To the portion of our marital assets that remains after accounting for the money you embezzled from our joint accounts. Did you think I wouldn't notice the transfers to your private account in Boise? For the first time, Richard looked genuinely alarmed. Those were business investments. In what business exactly? Because I subpoenaed those records last month. Funny how much money went to Diamond Gentlemen's Club and weekend trips you took while I was at conferences. Sarah's professional mask was firmly in place, but I could see the cost of maintaining it in the whiteness of her knuckles as she gripped the counter. So yes, Richard, you have rights, and I have documentation. Would you like to see what a court will make of it? The grandfather clock struck the half-hour, its sonorous tone filling the silence that followed. Richard's shoulders sagged slightly, his expression shifting from defiance to calculation. I've made mistakes, he conceded, voice softening to the repentant tone that had likely talked him out of trouble countless times before. But I love you, Sarah. We can work through this. Couples counseling. A fresh start. My sister laughed, a sound utterly devoid of humor. A fresh start? After you pursued my sister? After what you did at my father's funeral? I was drunk, he protested, grief-stricken. It was a mistake. A mistake, Sarah repeated flatly. Is that what you call sexual assault now? A mistake? The word hung in the air between us all. The first time it had been named explicitly. I felt a chill run through me at hearing it spoken aloud. The reality I'd been trying not to face since that terrible day. That's not what happened, Richard insisted, his eyes darting to me, silently pleading. I met his gaze steadily. We both know exactly what happened, Richard. Sarah took a deep breath. You have 1 hour to pack essentials. The rest, we'll handle through attorneys. The security system will be recoded tonight. Don't try to come back without permission. For a moment, it seemed Richard might argue further. Then something shifted in his expression. A coldness I'd glimpsed only once before, in the bathroom at my parents' house during the funeral reception. You'll regret this, he said quietly. Both of you. The threat lingered in the air as he turned and walked upstairs, his footsteps heavy on the polished hardwood. When we heard the bedroom door close, Sarah finally allowed herself to sink into a kitchen chair, her composure crumbling like a sandcastle against the tide. The first time I met Richard was at my parents' 30th anniversary party, summer of 2010. Sarah had been dating him for 6 months, but kept him separate from family gatherings. Unusual for my sister, who typically integrated boyfriends into family functions immediately, as if seeking our collective approval. He's special, she had told me over the phone, her voice tinged with an unfamiliar nervousness. I wanted to be sure before introducing him to everyone. I flew in from Nairobi, where I'd been documenting elephant conservation efforts. At 29, I was still finding my footing as a photographer, taking whatever assignments would build my portfolio while paying the bills. Sarah, already established in her legal career, had wired money for my plane ticket, one of countless times she'd supported me financially, emotionally, practically. Richard arrived at our parents' Connecticut home in a vintage Jaguar, dressed in a blazer and loafers that screamed old money, though Sarah later confided his parents were school teachers from Tacoma. He charmed our mother instantly, discussing her garden with surprising knowledge. Won over our father by asking thoughtful questions about his woodworking hobby. By dinner, he felt like family. After the meal, Sarah found me alone on the back porch, nursing a glass of our father's expensive whiskey. "What do you think?" she asked, uncharacteristic insecurity in her voice. "He's perfect," I said honestly. "Mom and Dad are ready to adopt him." Sarah smiled, but something hesitant remained in her expression. "And you? What do you really think?" I considered my sister then. Brilliant, accomplished, always certain of her path. I'd never seen her seek approval this way, especially not from her younger, less conventional sister. I think he's the first man I've seen make you laugh like that, I said finally. You seem happy, Sarah. Really happy. She released a breath, as if my assessment carried weight she hadn't admitted to herself. I am. It's different with him. I'm different with him. Over the next year, I watched my driven, career-focused sister soften, make space in her meticulously planned life for spontaneous weekend trips, stay up late watching classic movies instead of preparing for cases. When Richard proposed on Christmas Eve in front of our family, Sarah, who never cried, wept openly as she said yes. I was her maid of honor at their vineyard wedding in Willamette Valley, helped them move into their first apartment in Portland, when Sarah transferred to her firm's Oregon office to accommodate Richard's real estate ambitions, listened to her anxieties about balancing her partnership track with starting a family, a balance that proved unnecessary when they discovered Richard had fertility issues, held her through that disappointment, through the failed adoption attempts, through her gradual acceptance that their family would remain just the two of them. For years, I was the primary witness to their relationship during my brief visits between assignments. I saw Sarah work increasingly long hours, as Richard's business ventures required more capital, saw her exhaust herself, trying to be the perfect wife despite her professional demands, watched her make excuses for his absences at her award ceremonies, his forgotten anniversaries, his dismissive comments about her unhealthy work addiction. Our mother noticed too. During a Christmas visit in 2018, Mom cornered me in the kitchen while Sarah and Richard were walking the neighborhood to see holiday lights. Is she happy? Mom asked bluntly. Really happy? I hesitated, caught between loyalty to my sister and honesty with my mother. She says she is. Mom's mouth tightened. That's not what I asked. When Sarah was diagnosed with early-stage cervical cancer in 2020, I took a 6-month sabbatical to move in with them during her treatment. Richard hired a housekeeper but was frequently absent. Client meetings, business trips, networking events. I drove Sarah to chemotherapy appointments, held her hair while she vomited, tracked her medications, and listened to her fears in the dark hours when sleep wouldn't come. One night, feverish from infection, she gripped my hand with surprising strength. Promise me something, Lizzie. She hadn't called me Lizzie since we were children. Anything. If something happens to me, make sure Richard is okay. Her eyes, sunken from weight loss, were intense. He doesn't do well alone. He needs someone to take care of him. I swallowed hard against the implication. Nothing is going to happen to you. Promise me, she insisted. I promise, I whispered, though the promise felt wrong somehow, misplaced. It should have been Richard at her bedside. Richard making promises to care for her, not extracting promises of care for himself. Sarah recovered, returned to work with renewed intensity, as if outrunning mortality itself. Richard celebrated by buying a boat. I returned to my assignments, but something had shifted in how I viewed their marriage, a crack in the perfect facade I couldn't unsee. When our father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer last year, Sarah and Richard flew to Connecticut regularly. Sarah arranged for specialists, clinical trials, home health care. Richard complained about the disruption to his business, but came along dutifully, spending more time chatting with the hospice nurses than sitting with Dad. During one visit, I found Sarah alone in Dad's kitchen at 3 a.m., silently washing dishes that didn't need washing. You should sleep, I said gently. I keep thinking about what I'll regret, she replied, scrubbing a spotless plate. When it's over, what I'll wish I'd done differently. With Dad? She shook her head. With everything. Everyone. She set down the plate carefully. Do you think I've wasted my life, Liz? The question shocked me. Of course not. You're brilliant at what you do. You help people. I help corporations avoid liability, she corrected bitterly. And I come home to an empty house most nights because my husband is networking or finding himself or whatever he's calling it these days. It was the first time she'd directly criticized Richard to me. A door opening that I wasn't sure how to step through. Sarah, are you happy in your marriage? I asked carefully. She turned to me, eyes dry but haunted. I made vows, Liz, for better or worse. That doesn't answer my question. She turned back to the sink. It's the only answer I have right now. Dad died 3 weeks later. At the funeral reception, Richard had been attentive, charming, the perfect supportive husband, until he cornered me in the upstairs bathroom of our parents' house. I had gone up to help Mom find more tissues. Was washing my hands when the door opened and Richard slipped in, locking it behind him. "We need to talk," he said, his breath heavy with whiskey. "Not now, Richard. And not here." I tried to move past him to the door. He blocked my path, placing his hands on my shoulders. "I've seen how you look at me, Elizabeth. All these years." I stared at him, momentarily unable to process what was happening. "You're drunk and grieving. Let me pass. Sarah's always working, always distracted. But you see me." His hands slid from my shoulders down my arms. "You've always seen me." I twisted away from him. "This is inappropriate. You're my brother-in-law." His expression darkened. "Don't play innocent. The texts, the way you dress when you visit. You've been inviting this." "I've never invited anything," I said firmly, anger replacing shock. "I've ignored your texts, deleted your emails, made excuses to Sarah about why I couldn't stay at your house during visits. She doesn't understand me, not like you could." He moved closer again, backing me against the sink. "We have a connection, Elizabeth. You know we do." What happened next was captured by the small security camera Mom had installed after a break-in. His hands gripping my arms, my struggle to push him away, the moment he forced his mouth on mine. The camera didn't capture my knee connecting with his groin, or the words I hissed at him before fleeing the bathroom. "If you ever touch me again, Sarah will see this video." Now, sitting in Sarah's kitchen as Richard packed upstairs, I felt the weight of all our shared history, the ways I'd witnessed her sacrifice for him, the slow erosion of her confidence, the subtle isolation from friends and family, the warning signs I'd noticed but never named, out of respect for her autonomy, her intelligence, her right to make her own choices. Sarah sat across from me, her face pale but composed. "I should have known," she said softly. "All those times you made excuses not to stay with us. The way you timed your visits for when I'd be off work. I didn't want to hurt you," I replied, the inadequacy of the words hanging between us. "No," she agreed. "You wanted to protect me, like always." She reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm so sorry, Liz, for what he did to you, for what I said earlier." For the first time since I arrived, I felt the tightness in my chest begin to loosen. My sister was still there, beneath the pain and betrayal. My Sarah. "We'll get through this," I promised her, squeezing her hand. Together. The hour Richard spent upstairs was excruciating. We could hear him moving around, drawers opening and closing, closet doors sliding, occasional muttering. Sarah sat rigid at the kitchen table, her lawyer mask firmly in place, but I could see the subtle tremors in her hands, the too rapid rise and fall of her chest. "Do you want me to call someone?" I asked gently. "Your friend Meredith? Or David from your office?" Sarah shook her head. "No witnesses. Not for this." I understood. My sister, private, controlled, perfect, couldn't bear for anyone to see the implosion of her carefully constructed life. Even now, she was calculating damage control. "The gala tonight," she said suddenly. "I need to call Charlotte. Tell her we won't be attending." "I can do that for you," I offered. "No," Sarah stood abruptly. "I need to do something normal. Make a phone call. Cancel a commitment. Routine." I watched her walk to the living room, phone in hand, shoulders squared beneath her silk pajama top. Even in crisis, Sarah needed to maintain the appearance of control. From upstairs came the sound of something heavy falling, followed by a muffled curse. Sarah flinched but continued her phone conversation, her voice pleasant and apologetic as she cited a sudden migraine for their absence. When she returned, her expression had shifted from shock to something harder, more resolved. "He's taking too long," she said, checking her watch. "Probably stealing whatever isn't bolted down. Should we check on him?" Before she could answer, Richard appeared in the doorway, 2 large suitcases at his feet. He had changed into jeans and a polo shirt, his hair freshly combed, cologne wafting faintly around him. The picture of a man going on a weekend trip, not one whose life had just imploded. "I'll come by next week for the rest of my things," he said, voice unnervingly calm. "My attorney will be in touch about the division of assets." Sarah nodded stiffly. "Fine." Richard's gaze shifted to me, and the coldness I glimpsed there sent a chill down my spine. "You've wanted this for years, haven't you, Elizabeth? To destroy what Sarah and I built together? That's enough," Sarah snapped. "You don't get to rewrite history. Not with me." "History?" Richard laughed, a hollow sound. "Let's talk about history, shall we?" About your sister's obsession with our marriage, the way she calls you every time I'm out of town, the concerns she's been planting for years. I felt my face flush with anger. That's not what happened. No. Richard pulled his phone from his pocket, tapped the screen a few times, then placed it on the counter. Listen for yourself. A recording began to play. My voice, slightly distorted but unmistakable. Sarah, I'm worried about you. This relationship isn't healthy. The way he controls your finances isolates you from friends. These are warning signs. Sarah's recorded voice responded, You don't understand our marriage, Elizabeth. Please stop trying to come between us. The recording stopped. I stared at the phone in horror, trying to remember when that conversation had taken place. Then it hit me. 2 years ago, after Sarah had canceled a planned sisters' weekend, because Richard had suddenly organized a couple's retreat with friends I'd never heard her mention. You recorded our phone calls? Sarah asked, voice barely above a whisper. Richard's expression was triumphant. I protect myself, Sarah. Just like you do, apparently. I felt sick. That conversation is completely out of context. I was genuinely concerned. You were jealous. Richard cut in. Always have been. The unmarried sister, drifting from place to place. No real home. No family. While Sarah built something real. Stop it, Sarah said. But Richard continued as if she hadn't spoken. Did you tell her about Boston, Elizabeth? About why you really moved there 3 years ago? His smile was cruel now. About Dr. James Reynolds? The name hit me like a physical blow. James, the married conservation director I'd had an affair with. A shameful secret I'd shared only with Sarah during my darkest moment. After it all fell apart. Richard, don't, Sarah warned, but he was relentless. Your sister, the homewrecker, he continued, eyes locked on mine. Destroyed a 20-year marriage, then ran away when the wife confronted her. Is that why you're so eager to paint me as the villain? Projection? Shame and rage battled within me. That was different, was it? Richard's voice was silky now. Tell me, Elizabeth, did you pursue me because I was unavailable? Because taking Sarah's husband would finally prove you could compete with your perfect sister? That's insane, I whispered. I never pursued you. The late-night texts? The revealing outfits? The lingering hugs? Richard turned to Sarah. Ask yourself why she was always around when you were working. Why she always found reasons to visit when you had cases. I watched in horror as doubt flickered across my sister's face. Sarah, he's lying. You know me, do I? Sarah's voice was hollow. The James situation surprised me too. The betrayal in those words stole my breath. After everything, the evidence, the video, years of loyalty, she could still doubt me. Check the timestamps on those messages, I said desperately. They all came from him, not me. I barely responded. Selective screenshots, Richard countered smoothly. She deleted her side of the conversations. Sarah looked between us, confusion and pain etched on her features. For a terrible moment, I saw Richard's strategy working, planting just enough doubt to create a crack in Sarah's certainty. The video, I reminded her, from Mom's bathroom. Convenient that you're the only one with access to it, Richard said. Have you shown Sarah the part where you kissed me back? That never happened. I moved toward him, fury overriding caution. You assaulted me. Richard's expression shifted to one of practiced concern. Sarah, she's becoming hysterical. This is exactly what happened at the funeral. She cornered me, tried to kiss me, then threatened to tell you I attacked her if I didn't leave you. The grandfather clock struck 5, its chime punctuating the terrible silence that followed. Get out, Sarah said, her voice deadly quiet. Richard blinked. Sarah, you need to hear. Get out! She screamed, the composure finally shattering. Get out of my house! Get out of my life! The raw pain in her voice seemed to fill the room, bouncing off the gleaming surfaces of the kitchen she'd worked so hard to afford. Years of suppressed emotion erupting in a single moment. Richard took a step back, momentarily startled by the outburst from his always controlled wife. Then his expression hardened. You'll regret choosing her over me, he said coldly. When she leaves, and she will leave, Sarah, it's what she does. Don't come crawling back. He grabbed his suitcases and walked to the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. One more thing you should know. I've been sleeping with Charlotte Winters for the past year. Your maid of honor, your best friend. Guess she got tired of hearing about your 60-hour work weeks too. The final twist of the knife, delivered with surgical precision to cause maximum pain. I watched my sister absorb this last betrayal, saw something fundamental break behind her eyes. The front door slammed. Through the kitchen window, I watched Richard load his suitcases into his Audi, movements unhurried, almost casual, as if he were leaving for a business trip, not exiting his marriage. When his car disappeared down the street, I turned to find Sarah still standing in the same spot, utterly still, eyes fixed on nothing. "Sarah," I said softly, moving toward her. She held up a hand, stopping me. "Don't." Her voice was a rasp, barely recognizable. "I need to be alone right now." "I don't think that's a good idea." "I don't care what you think," she exploded, whirling to face me. "My husband just walked out. My best friend betrayed me. My entire life is a lie. I need space, Elizabeth. Space from everyone." I felt her words like blows. "Sarah, please, let me help you." She laughed, a broken sound that held no humor. "Help me? Like you helped by keeping his messages secret for a year? By waiting until now to show me? I was trying to protect you," I said helplessly. "No," Sarah whispered, something terrible dawning in her expression. "You were collecting evidence, building a case, waiting for the perfect moment. The accusation hung between us, too close to a truth I hadn't admitted to myself. I had waited, watched, documented. Like a photographer stalking rare prey, I'd captured Richard's true nature frame by frame, waiting for the perfect shot. "I didn't know what to do," I admitted. "I was afraid you wouldn't believe me, and now we'll never know, will we?" Sarah's voice was ice. "Because you didn't trust me enough to make my own choice. You decided when and how my marriage would end." The unfairness of her accusation stung, but beneath it lay a kernel of truth I couldn't deny. I had made choices for her, just as Richard had. "I'm sorry," I whispered. Sarah turned away, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "Just go, Elizabeth. Please. I can't do this right now. I'm not leaving you alone, not after—" "Go!" she screamed, grabbing a coffee mug from the counter and hurling it against the wall where it shattered, ceramic shards skittering across the polished floor. "Get out! Everyone get out!" I stood frozen, watching my sister, composed, controlled Sarah, crumble before my eyes. Her body folded in on itself as she slid to the kitchen floor, a keening sound emerging from deep in her chest, the sound of something fundamental breaking. Moving slowly, I knelt beside her, not touching, just present. Sarah's body shook with sobs, 15 years of perfect composure dissolving in an instant. "I hate him," she gasped between sobs. "I hate Charlotte. I hate this house. I hate my life." She looked up at me, face streaked with tears, eyes wild with grief. "Sometimes I even hate you, with your freedom and your passion and your ability to walk away from anything." The words cut deep, but I remained still, letting her pain flow wherever it needed to go. "But most of all," she whispered, her voice breaking, "I hate myself for not seeing it, for wasting 15 years, for building my life around a lie." I stayed on Sarah's kitchen floor with her until the sobs subsided into quiet hiccups, then eventually to silent tears. The afternoon light shifted to evening shadows, painting the broken ceramic shards in deepening blues. Neither of us moved to clean up the mess, physical or emotional. "You should eat something," I finally said, my voice sounding strange after the long silence. Sarah shook her head, eyes fixed on nothing. "Not hungry. Tea then, or water." She didn't respond, but didn't protest when I gently helped her to her feet and guided her to the living room sofa. I retrieved a throw blanket from the basket beside the fireplace, one our grandmother had crocheted decades ago, and draped it over Sarah's shoulders. In the kitchen, I swept up the broken mug, made tea, and found crackers in the pantry. When I returned, Sarah was staring at her phone. 17 missed calls, she said flatly. 15 from the other partners about the Anderson merger. 2 from Charlotte. "You don't have to deal with any of that right now," I said, setting the tea and crackers on the coffee table. Sarah looked up, her swollen eyes suddenly sharp. "Yes, I do. The Anderson merger represents 6 months of work, millions in potential firm revenue." I sat beside her. "Sarah, your marriage just imploded. No one expects you to worry about work right now." "Yes, they do," she replied with unexpected vehemence. "They absolutely do, because that's who I am to them, to everyone. Reliable Sarah, robot Sarah, the one who never lets emotions interfere with performance." The bitterness in her voice startled me. This was a side of my sister I'd rarely glimpsed, the resentment beneath her perfect exterior. "You're allowed to fall apart," I said softly. "You're human." Sarah laughed, a hollow sound. "Am I? Sometimes I wonder." She pulled the blanket tighter around herself. "Did you know Richard once called me the perfect appliance? Said I was like a top-of-the-line refrigerator. Expensive, reliable, always running in the background." The casual cruelty of the comparison made my stomach clench. "He's an asshole." "Yes," Sarah agreed, something shifting in her expression. "He is, but he wasn't entirely wrong." She reached for the tea, wrapping her hands around the mug as if seeking warmth. "I became what everyone needed me to be. The perfect daughter, the perfect student, the perfect wife, the perfect attorney." Her voice dropped to a whisper. I lost myself somewhere along the way. I remained silent, sensing she needed to speak these truths aloud, perhaps for the first time. "When did I last do something just for joy?" she continued. "When did I last say no to a client? Take a vacation without my laptop? Buy clothes I actually liked instead of what projected the right image?" The questions hung in the air between us, unanswerable. "I kept thinking achievement would eventually equal happiness," Sarah said. "Partnership, the house, the right husband, the right friends, but it never did. So I just worked harder, achieved more, kept moving the goalposts." Her hands trembled slightly around the mug. "And Richard, he sensed that emptiness in me, that desperate need for validation. It made me the perfect mark." "You weren't a mark, Sarah. You were a wife who trusted her husband." She shook her head. "I was convenient. My income, my social connections, my workaholic tendencies that left him free to do whatever, whoever, he wanted." Her voice hardened. "He never loved me. He loved what I provided." The stark assessment broke my heart, not because it was cruel, but because I feared it contained truth. I'd watched their dynamic for 15 years. Sarah giving, Richard taking, the imbalance growing with each passing year. "I enabled him," she continued, a new clarity in her voice. "Made excuses for his failures, his absences. Believed his lies because the alternative meant facing that I'd built my life on a foundation of sand." Sarah set down the mug and looked at me directly, something changing in her expression, grief giving way to something harder, more resolved. "But no more," she said quietly. "I'm done." The simple declaration held a weight that filled the room. I'd never heard my sister speak with such quiet certainty. "Done with what?" I asked carefully. "With all of it. The pretending, the excusing, the performance." Sarah pushed the blanket off her shoulders. "I've spent 15 years being Richard Bennett's wife. Before that, I was Philip and Margaret Winter's daughter. Mom and Dad had dreams for me. Law school, prestigious firm, suitable husband." She stood, moving to the large bay window that overlooked the manicured front lawn. "Did you know I wanted to be a prosecutor? Criminal law, victims advocacy. This was news to me. What happened? Dad happened. Corporate law has better hours, better pay, more stability," she quoted. "Criminal law is messy, emotional, not for someone with your potential." The bitterness in her voice surprised me. Sarah had always been our father's pride, his golden child. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" She turned back to me, silhouetted against the darkening window. "Because it was easier not to. Easier to be who everyone expected, the responsible one, especially compared to you." I flinched at the comparison, the old wound reopening. "Dad's disappointment." Sarah shook her head. "Dad's envy, though he'd never admit it. You had the courage to live authentically, to chase what mattered to you." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "I was secretly in awe of you, you know. Still am." The admission stunned me into silence. All these years I'd assumed Sarah viewed my life choices with pity or disdain. The flighty younger sister who couldn't settle down, couldn't commit, couldn't achieve. "I never knew," I finally managed. "How could you?" I barely admitted it to myself. Sarah moved away from the window, her movements taking on new purpose. "But that ends now. No more silent resentment. No more perfect facade." She picked up her phone, scrolled through the missed calls, then deliberately set it face down on the coffee table. "The Anderson merger can wait until Monday. Charlotte can go to hell. And Richard," her voice hardened, "Richard has no idea what's coming." Something in her tone sent a chill down my spine. Not fear, exactly, but recognition. This was a Sarah I'd never seen before, a warrior emerging from beneath the corporate armor she'd worn for decades. "What are you going to do?" I asked. Sarah moved toward the stairs with deliberate steps. "First, I'm going to shower, then change out of these ridiculous pajamas he bought me. Then I'm going to order disgustingly greasy pizza from that place on Hawthorne that Richard always said was beneath us." The mundane nature of these first acts of rebellion made me smile despite everything. Sounds like a solid start. Sarah paused at the foot of the stairs. "And tomorrow I'm going to call Meredith Davis." The name was familiar. "Your friend from law school? The one who started that nonprofit?" Sarah nodded. "Victims' Rights Legal Initiative. They represent survivors of domestic abuse, sexual assault, workplace harassment." She met my eyes steadily. "They need experienced attorneys willing to take cases pro bono." Understanding dawned. "You're making a career change?" "Eventually. First, I need to handle my own life." Sarah's expression turned resolute. "Starting with divorce proceedings. Richard thinks he's been clever, hiding assets, recording conversations out of context. He has no idea who he's up against." For the first time in hours, I felt a flicker of hope. This wasn't my sister breaking down. This was my sister breaking free. "What about the house?" I asked, looking around the immaculate living room with its designer furniture and carefully curated art, none of which reflected Sarah's actual taste, I realized. She surveyed the space with new eyes. "I'll sell it. It's too big, too much of what I thought I was supposed to want." "Where will you go?" A genuine smile appeared on Sarah's face. Small, but real. "I don't know yet." Isn't that wonderful? For the first time in my adult life, I don't have a 5-year plan. She started up the stairs, then paused, looking back at me. "But first, I need you to send me that video, and all the messages, every single one. Of course. What are you going to do with them?" Something cold and precise entered Sarah's expression, the look I imagined she wore in courtrooms when moving in for the kill. "Build a case," she said simply. "Richard thinks he's the injured party, that I'm the cold, unavailable wife, that you somehow seduced him?" She shook her head slowly. "He's about to discover what happens when a litigator with a 97% success rate decides to focus all her attention on one opponent." As Sarah disappeared upstairs, I felt a peculiar mixture of emotions. Sorrow for her pain, rage at Richard's betrayal, but beneath it all, a growing certainty. My sister would not merely survive this. She would emerge stronger, more authentic, more herself than she had been in decades. I sent the video and messages to her email, then deleted them from my phone. No longer my burden to carry. The evidence was where it belonged now, in the hands of a woman who knew exactly how to use it. When Sarah returned 30 minutes later, she had transformed. Gone were the silk pajamas, replaced by worn jeans, and a faded University of Oregon sweatshirt I'd never seen her wear. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, face scrubbed clean of makeup. "I bought this sweatshirt my first year of law school," she explained, catching my surprised look. "Before I met Richard, before I started dressing for the life I thought I should have." She looked younger, softer, but paradoxically stronger, more present in her own skin. "It suits you," I said truthfully. Sarah smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "I ordered that pizza, extra cheese, wines in the fridge, and I found these." She held up a stack of photo albums. "From before. I thought maybe we could look through them together." The simple suggestion, so ordinary, so sisterly, made my throat tighten with emotion. "I'd like that." As we settled on the couch with the albums, Sarah looked at me with clear eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for being brave enough to tell me the truth, even when I didn't want to hear it. Always, I promised. That's what sisters do." The weekend passed in a strange bubble of grief and rediscovery. Sarah called in sick to work on Monday, something she hadn't done in years without being hospitalized. We spent hours talking, really talking, peeling back layers of assumptions and misunderstandings that had accumulated between us like sedimentary rock. "I always thought you disapproved of my lifestyle," I admitted as we walked along the Willamette River Monday afternoon. "The traveling, the lack of permanence." Sarah shook her head, squinting against the autumn sunlight. "Envied, not disapproved. You were brave enough to create a life that actually fit you." We passed joggers, dog walkers, mothers with strollers, normal people living normal Monday lives, unaware of the seismic shift occurring within my sister with each step she took. "I've been thinking about what Richard said," Sarah continued after a pause. About you collecting evidence, waiting for the right moment. I tensed, preparing for accusation. Sarah, no. Let me finish. She stopped walking, turning to face me. He was manipulating, gaslighting, trying to drive a wedge between us. But there was a grain of truth there, wasn't there? I couldn't lie to her. Not now. Yes, I knew something was wrong in your marriage long before the messages started. I saw how he treated you, the subtle put-downs, the way he undermined your confidence. But I didn't know how to tell you without sounding jealous or interfering. Sarah nodded slowly. So, when he crossed the line with you, the evidence became your way in. Concrete proof I couldn't dismiss. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. I should have trusted you more. No, Sarah replied with surprising gentleness. You understood something I didn't want to admit to myself, that I'd built my identity around being the perfect wife, the perfect attorney. Acknowledging Richard's true nature meant acknowledging my own self-deception. We resumed walking, the river flowing steadily beside us. What made you finally decide to show me? Sarah asked. Your email about the divorce attorney, I admitted. I realized he was preparing to discard you, to twist the narrative. I couldn't let that happen. Sarah was quiet for several steps. Did you know about Charlotte? The question I'd been dreading. I suspected something. The way she always canceled plans with you at the last minute. How she'd ask about your schedule, when you'd be traveling next. I hesitated, but I had no proof. Nothing concrete. She was my maid of honor, Sarah said, her voice hollow. 15 years of friendship. I confided everything to her. My frustrations with Richard, my fears about our marriage, all while she couldn't finish the sentence. We reached a bench overlooking the river and sat, watching a family of ducks navigate the current. I keep thinking about all the times she comforted me, Sarah continued. Told me to be more patient with Richard, that all marriages go through rough patches. A bitter laugh escaped her. She was actively sabotaging my marriage while pretending to support it. I took my sister's hand. I'm so sorry, Sarah. She squeezed my fingers, then released them, straightening her posture. Don't be. It's clarifying, in a way. No more illusions. When we returned to the house, Sarah's phone was blinking with new messages. Charlotte, calling again, the senior partner at her firm, and, surprisingly, our mother. Sarah put the phone on speaker as she returned Mom's call. Sarah, darling. Mom's voice came through, warm but tentative. How are you? Richard called me yesterday, very upset. He said you two had a terrible fight. Sarah's eyes met mine, a silent communication passing between us. So Richard was already spinning the narrative, starting with our mother. Yes, Mom, Sarah replied calmly. We did. He's worried about you, dear. Says you're not yourself, that you might be having a breakdown from work stress. He mentioned Elizabeth is there? I am, Mom, I called. Sarah's fine. Better than fine, actually. Oh, Elizabeth, I didn't realize you were listening. Mom's voice shifted, becoming more cautious. Richard said you two had some sort of disagreement as well. Sarah's jaw tightened. Mom, Richard and I aren't having a fight. We're getting divorced. The silence on the other end stretched for several seconds. Divorced? But why? You've always been so happy together. We haven't, actually, Sarah replied with new frankness. And the why involves him pursuing my sister, among other betrayals. Another long silence. I don't understand. I know, Mom. It's a lot. But right now, I need you to trust that I'm making the right decision for myself. Of course, but... Mom hesitated. Richard was so convincing. He said you'd been distant, working too much, that Elizabeth had been filling your head with doubts. I felt a surge of anger. He's lying, Mom. He's trying to control the narrative. Let me handle this, Sarah said to me quietly, then back into the phone. Mom, I know this is confusing. Richard has always been charming, especially with you and Dad. But there are things you don't know, things I've hidden for years. What things? Mom asked, her voice small. Sarah took a deep breath. I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you come visit next week? We can talk properly then. After ending the call with Mom, Sarah sat heavily on the couch, emotionally drained. That's just the beginning. He'll tell everyone his version before I can speak. Then we need to move quickly, I said. What's our next step? Sarah looked at me, a spark of appreciation in her eyes at the hour. Then she reached for her laptop. I need to check something. A hunch. I watched as she logged into her online banking, navigating through accounts with practiced efficiency. Her expression shifted as she studied the screen. "What is it?" I asked. "Richard's been making withdrawals. Large ones, 5,000 here, 8,000 there. Small enough not to immediately raise flags, but they add up." She tapped a few more keys. "Nearly 60,000 over the past 3 months. He's preparing," I said. "Building a nest egg." "Yes, but where is he putting it?" Sarah muttered, more to herself than me. She opened another window, typing rapidly. "His credit card is still linked to my account for payment." I watched as she pulled up statements, scanning them with the practiced eye of someone who had spent decades reviewing financial documents for inconsistencies. "There," she said suddenly, highlighting a recurring charge. "Monthly payments to Portland Executive Storage. Started 3 months ago, right when the large withdrawals began. You think he's storing something valuable?" Sarah nodded slowly. "Or preparing to. Richard's always been materialistic. His watches, art pieces, first edition books. Items with high value but easy to transport." She continued scrolling, a new focus in her movements. "And here, repeated charges at Hayes Security Systems. Not our home security provider." I leaned closer. "A safe deposit box?" Multiple boxes from the payment amounts. Sarah's expression was changing, shifting from discovery to something approaching satisfaction. "He's been planning this for months. Liquidating assets, storing valuables, preparing for a clean break. Can you prove any of this is related to hidden marital assets?" A small, cold smile touched Sarah's lips. "I don't have to prove it yet. I just need enough evidence to file for an emergency injunction freezing all our assets pending divorce proceedings, and to justify a forensic accountant." She opened another window on her computer, accessing what appeared to be her firm's document system. "What are you looking for now?" I asked. "Something I drafted 3 years ago, after finding those emails about hiding assets." Sarah's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. "A post-nuptial agreement. You made Richard sign a post-nup?" This was news to me. "Not exactly." Sarah found what she was looking for and turned the screen toward me. "I drafted it but never presented it to him. I wasn't ready to acknowledge what I suspected." Her voice hardened. "But I did document every major asset we owned at that time, with valuations, and I've updated it every quarter since." I stared at the meticulous spreadsheet. Properties, vehicles, art, jewelry, investments, retirement accounts, each item dated, photographed, and valued. "Sarah," I said slowly, "you've been preparing for this day for 3 years." She met my eyes steadily. Subconsciously, perhaps. Some part of me always knew this would end. I just didn't want to admit it. "And now?" Sarah closed the laptop with a decisive click. "Now I stop hiding from the truth." Starting with a visit to Portland Executive Storage. The storage facility was located in an industrial area near the airport, upscale compared to typical self-storage, with climate control and enhanced security features. The kind of place where wealthy individuals might store valuable art or collectibles. "I need access to Unit 327, Sarah told the facility manager, a middle-aged man named Dale who seemed impressed by her professional demeanor. "It's under my husband's name, Richard Bennett, but the payment comes from our joint account." Dale checked his computer. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Bennett, but Mr. Bennett specified sole access. I can't let you in without his authorization." Sarah smiled pleasantly. "I understand completely. You're just doing your job." She opened her purse and removed a business card. "However, I should mention that I'm a senior partner at Caldwell, Ross & Whitney. We handle the legal affairs for Securus Holdings." Dale's expression changed at the mention of the facility's parent company. "I'd hate to involve them in what's really a simple domestic matter," Sarah continued smoothly. "Especially when we could resolve this with a quick call to Richard. I'd be happy to call Mr. Bennett for authorization," Dale offered, reaching for the phone. "That would be perfect," Sarah agreed. "Though you should know he's currently quite upset with me. We're in the middle of divorce proceedings and he may be uncooperative." Dale's hand hesitated over the phone. "Divorce proceedings?" Sarah sighed theatrically. "Yes. Quite messy, I'm afraid. In fact, my attorney has filed for an emergency injunction regarding all marital assets, which would include whatever is stored in Unit 327. She paused, allowing Dale to absorb the implications. "Of course, if I have to get a court order to access the unit, there will be official records, depositions. Your name would appear as the person who denied reasonable access to shared marital property." I watched in silent admiration as my sister wielded her professional authority like a scalpel. Precise, bloodless, effective. Dale cleared his throat. Perhaps we can find a solution that doesn't involve courts. If you could provide some verification that you share financial responsibility for the unit. Sarah produced her phone, showing him the credit card statements with the facility charges. As you can see, the payments come from my personal credit card. I believe that establishes my interest in the contents. 10 minutes later, we were standing in front of Unit 327, Dale reluctantly unlocking it for a brief visual inspection only, no removal of items. The storage unit was smaller than I'd expected, about the size of a walk-in closet, but what it contained made my breath catch. Neatly arranged shelves held what appeared to be Richard's most valuable possessions, his collection of vintage watches, several small sculptures I recognized from their home, leather cases that likely contained his coin collection, and most surprisingly, a rack of designer handbags and jewelry boxes that clearly belonged to Sarah. He's been moving our valuables here piece by piece, Sarah said quietly. Things I wouldn't immediately notice were missing. Dale shifted uncomfortably. Mrs. Bennett, I really shouldn't leave you unattended in here. Just 5 minutes, Sarah said firmly. I need to document what's here for our attorneys. When Dale stepped reluctantly outside, Sarah moved quickly, opening drawers and examining contents. In one locked cabinet, she found a small safe. This is new, she murmured, examining it. He must have purchased it specifically for here. Can you open it? I asked. Sarah smiled thinly. Richard always uses the same combinations. His high school football jersey number plus the year we met. To my amazement, the safe opened at her first attempt. Inside lay several thick envelopes and a small leather notebook. Sarah quickly photographed everything with her phone, then examined one envelope. Cash, she said, fanning the bills briefly. Looks like $10,000 in each package. She flipped through the notebook, her expression darkening. Account numbers, passwords, addresses. She photographed every page before returning everything exactly as she'd found it. Just before closing the safe, Sarah noticed something else. A small velvet jewelry box tucked in the back corner. She opened it, and I heard her sharp intake of breath. Inside was a diamond tennis bracelet I'd never seen before. Certainly not one Richard had given Sarah. Charlotte's birthday gift, I presume, Sarah said, her voice tight as she photographed it. He always did lack imagination when it came to jewelry. As we left the storage facility, Sarah walked with new purpose, her steps lighter despite the betrayal we'd documented. He thought he was being so clever, she said as we drove back toward her house. The secret storage unit, the cash, the gifts for Charlotte, all while I was working 70-hour weeks to maintain our lifestyle. What will you do with the information? I asked. Sarah's expression was resolute. Everything goes to my attorney tomorrow, along with the messages, the video, and the financial records. By this time next week, Richard Bennett is going to discover exactly who he married 15 years ago. She glanced at me, and who he betrayed. The next morning, Sarah rose at 5, her normal time despite being on self-declared leave from the firm. I found her in the home office, surrounded by stacks of organized documents, her laptop open to a spreadsheet of financial records. You're up early, I observed, setting a cup of coffee beside her. Old habits, she replied without looking up. Besides, we have an appointment at 9. We do? Now she raised her eyes, a determined glint in them. With Elaine Costas, the best divorce attorney in Oregon. I raised an eyebrow. Not handling it yourself? First rule of law, never represent yourself. Sarah took a sip of coffee. Besides, Elaine specializes in high-conflict divorces involving hidden assets. And she hates cheaters. Sarah had transformed her dining room into an impromptu war room. Documents organized in labeled folders, timelines taped to the wall, printouts of text messages arranged chronologically. In the center lay the video from Mom's security camera, downloaded to a flash drive. You've been busy, I observed. Couldn't sleep, she admitted. But it's better than lying awake thinking about Richard and Charlotte together. I studied my sister, the dark circles under her eyes telling a different story than her controlled exterior. Have you heard from either of them? Charlotte texted again last night, wants to explain her side. Sarah's voice was flat. Richard's lawyer called this morning at 7. Apparently, Richard is concerned about my mental state and willing to consider counseling. The calculated audacity made my blood boil. He's unbelievable. He's predictable, Sarah corrected. Right from the playbook. Paint me as unstable, himself as the concerned husband. Set the stage for claiming I'm too emotionally compromised to make financial decisions. She closed her laptop decisively, which is why today we move first. Elaine Costas's office occupied the top floor of a restored Victorian in Portland's Pearl District. Elegant, understated, and subtly intimidating. The woman herself matched her surroundings. In her 60s, with impeccably styled silver hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing, and a no-nonsense demeanor that inspired immediate confidence. "Sarah Winters Bennett," she said, shaking my sister's hand. "I've followed your work on the Westlake case. Impressive strategy." "Thank you," Sarah replied. "This is my sister, Elizabeth Winters." Elaine nodded to me, then gestured to the chairs in front of her desk. "So, you need a divorce attorney. Tell me why I should take your case when I have a 6-month waiting list." Sarah met the directness with equal frankness. "Because Richard Bennett is planning to claim I'm mentally unstable, work-obsessed, and neglectful as a wife. Because he's hidden assets and conducted at least one affair I can prove. And because he sexually harassed my sister, culminating in an assault at my father's funeral that we have on video." Elaine's expression didn't change, but something in her posture shifted. A predator scenting prey. "You have video evidence?" Sarah placed the flash drive on the desk. "Security camera in my mother's bathroom. Richard didn't know it was there." As Elaine viewed the video on her computer, her face hardened imperceptibly. When it finished, she looked at me. "Ms. Winters, are you willing to provide a sworn statement about this incident and the preceding harassment?" "Absolutely," I confirmed. Elaine turned back to Sarah. "You mentioned hidden assets." Sarah produced another flash drive. 3 months of unusual cash withdrawals, a secret storage unit containing valuables from our home, multiple safe deposit boxes opened recently, and evidence of gifts to his mistress, my former best friend, purchased with marital funds. Elaine's eyebrows rose slightly. "You've done my initial investigation for me." "I'm thorough," Sarah said simply. "So I see." Elaine leaned back in her chair, studying Sarah with new interest. "What do you want from this divorce, Ms. Winters Bennett?" Sarah didn't hesitate. "What I'm legally entitled to. Half our marital assets. No more, no less. I don't want his family property, personal inheritances, or anything acquired before our marriage. Many spouses in your position would want blood. I want justice, not revenge," Sarah clarified. "And I want this concluded quickly, with minimal public drama." Elaine nodded approvingly. "And if he fights dirty?" A cold smile touched Sarah's lips. "Then I want him to regret it." When we left Elaine's office 2 hours later, the initial paperwork was already being processed. Emergency motions to freeze assets, formal divorce filing, and most importantly, a temporary restraining order against Richard based on the video evidence. "She moved quickly," I observed as we walked to the parking garage. "That's why I hired her," Sarah replied. "Richard expects me to be emotional, reactive. He doesn't expect calculated, immediate legal action." As we reached Sarah's car, her phone buzzed with a text. She checked it, her expression unchanging. "Richard, the sheriff just served him with the TRO at his office." I winced, imagining the public humiliation of being served in front of colleagues. "He'll be furious." "Yes," Sarah agreed, an edge in her voice. "He will." Sure enough, the calls started before we even reached her house. Richard's number appearing repeatedly, then his lawyer, then unknown numbers I suspected were from burner phones. Sarah ignored them all. "Shouldn't you at least talk to his lawyer?" I asked as we pulled into her driveway. Sarah shook her head. "All communication goes through Elaine now. That's what I'm paying her for." Inside, Sarah headed straight to the kitchen and poured 2 glasses of wine, despite it being barely noon. "To first steps," she said, handing me one. I accepted the glass but studied my sister carefully. "Are you okay? Really okay?" Something vulnerable flickered across her face. "No, but I will be." She took a sip of wine. "For 15 years, I've made decisions based on what Richard wanted, what my firm expected, what society demanded of a successful woman. For once, I'm choosing for myself." Her phone buzzed again. Charlotte this time. Sarah silenced it without looking at the message. "What about work?" I asked. "How long can you stay away?" I called the managing partner this morning, told him I needed 2 weeks personal leave effective immediately. He wasn't happy, but my billables for the quarter are already above target. She shrugged. They'll survive without me. Sarah's house phone began ringing. Apparently, Richard had moved on to alternative methods of contact. We let it go to voicemail, his voice filling the kitchen. Sarah, this is insane. A restraining order? Sexual assault? You're believing Elizabeth over your husband of 15 years? Call me back immediately. We can fix this. Sarah listened impassively, swirling her wine. Classic Darvo, she observed. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. He's following the abuser's script to the letter. The clinical detachment in her analysis worried me. Sarah, you don't have to be strong all the time. It's okay to fall apart. No, she said firmly. It isn't. Not yet. She set down her glass. I'll process the emotional wreckage once the practical matters are handled. Right now, I need clarity. The house phone rang again almost immediately. This time, Charlotte's voice came through the speaker. Sarah, please. This is all a terrible misunderstanding. Richard and I, it wasn't what you think. Please let me explain in person. 15 years of friendship deserves at least that. Sarah flinched at this, the first crack in her composure I'd seen since we left Elaine's office. Without a word, she walked to the phone base and unplugged it from the wall. I can't hear her voice right now, she said simply. We spent the afternoon continuing to organize Sarah's financial records, creating a comprehensive inventory of marital assets. At 4, Elaine called with an update. The TRO has been granted, Sarah reported after hanging up. Richard is legally barred from contacting me or coming within 500 feet of this house or my office. Asset freeze is in place pending emergency hearing next Monday. That was fast, I observed. The video helped. A lot. Sarah's expression was grim satisfaction, as did his reaction to being served. Apparently he caused quite a scene at his office, which only reinforced concerns about potential volatility. That evening, a courier delivered a thick envelope, formal divorce papers for Sarah to sign. As she reviewed them at the dining room table, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Sarah read it, her face paling slightly. Richard, she said, showing me the screen. You think you're so clever with your restraining order, but you forget how well I know you, how much I know about you. Two can play this game, Sarah. That sounds like a threat, I said, alarmed. You should forward this to Elaine. Already done, Sarah replied, her lawyer efficiency returning. It's actually helpful. Demonstrates continued attempts at contact despite the TRO. Another text arrived. Ask Elizabeth about Boston, about James Reynolds, about what really happened. Sarah looked at me, confusion replacing her composure. What is he talking about? You told me James's wife confronted you, that you left Boston to avoid the scandal. I felt sick. Richard's manipulations reaching across miles and years. That's what happened. Then what is he implying? I hesitated, the shame of that period still raw. The confrontation was ugly, public, at a foundation event. She called me a whore, threw a drink in my face. I swallowed hard. I left because I was humiliated, because colleagues were whispering, because I couldn't face the judgment. Sarah studied me. There's more, isn't there? I nodded reluctantly. James told people I pursued him aggressively, that I wouldn't take no for an answer, that I threatened to claim harassment if he rejected me. The words tasted bitter. He rewrote our history to save his marriage and his reputation. Understanding dawned in Sarah's eyes. And Richard knows this because I told him, I admitted. 3 years ago when I was visiting. You were working late, and Richard and I had dinner. I'd had too much wine, was still processing the betrayal. He seemed so understanding, so supportive. Sarah was silent for a long moment. He's going to use it against you. Try to paint you as the aggressor to undermine your credibility about the funeral incident. I know. The realization made me feel physically ill. Sarah, I'm so sorry. If this hurts your case, it won't, she interrupted firmly. One manipulative man trying to discredit a woman with another man's lies? That's a pattern Elaine can use to our advantage. Sarah forwarded the texts to Elaine, then shut off her phone completely. Enough. No more reactions, no more responding to his provocations. She returned to the divorce papers, signing each flagged page with deliberate strokes. From now on, we move according to our timeline, not his. Over the next few days, Sarah methodically reclaimed her life. She changed the locks on the house, upgraded the security system, and closed their joint credit cards. She met with her financial advisor to separate investment accounts and update beneficiary designations on her retirement funds and life insurance. She also began subtly reclaiming her personal space. Richard's toiletries disappeared from the bathroom, his clothes from the closet, his favorite recliner from the living room. She rearranged furniture, ordered new bedding, and reprogrammed the garage door opener. "Erasing him?" I asked, as I helped her move his desk from the home office into the garage. "Reclaiming," she corrected. "Everything in this house was chosen to please Richard, to project the image he wanted. Now I'm deciding what I want to keep, what serves me." On Thursday, Sarah received a call from Elaine that visibly shook her. After hanging up, she sat heavily on the couch. "Richard's countering the TRO," she said, her voice strained, claiming I'm the abusive one, that I've been emotionally controlling, financially manipulative, that my work schedule was a form of abandonment. "That's absurd," I protested. "You have evidence of his behavior, and he has emails," Sarah said quietly. "Every time I declined a social event for work, every time I questioned a purchase, emails to colleagues complaining about feeling unsupported at home." She laughed bitterly. 15 years of correspondence, cherry-picked and recontextualized. Can he really twist things that way? Sarah nodded grimly. "It's what Richard does best. Reshape reality to cast himself as the victim. And I played right into it by being the family breadwinner, by focusing on my career. For the first time since that initial breakdown in the kitchen, I saw genuine fear in my sister's eyes. What if people believe him? My colleagues, our friends. What if they see me as the cold, controlling wife he's painting me as?" I sat beside her, taking her hand. "The people who matter will know the truth." Sarah squeezed my hand, then straightened her shoulders. "You're right. And Elaine says his counterpetition is actually clumsy, too aggressive, too vindictive. Makes him look desperate. So what's next?" A determined expression settled over Sarah's features. "Next, we stop reacting and start acting. Richard thinks he knows me, knows what I'll do." She stood, newfound purpose in her movement. "It's time to show him how wrong he is." Saturday morning, Sarah emerged from her home office with a different energy, focused, almost serene. She'd spent the previous day in virtual meetings with Elaine, a forensic accountant, and surprisingly, her boss at the law firm. "I'm taking a sabbatical," she announced over coffee. 3 months, starting Monday. This was unexpected. "What about the Anderson merger? Your cases?" "Being reassigned." She smiled at my obvious surprise. "What? You think I can't relinquish control? Frankly? No." Sarah laughed, a genuine sound I hadn't heard in days. Neither did my managing partner. Nearly fell out of his chair when I suggested it. She poured more coffee. "But it's the right move, strategically and personally. Richard's claiming I'm work-obsessed, prioritizing career over marriage, so I'm changing the narrative." I studied my sister with newfound admiration. The woman who had once structured her life in 15-minute billable increments was now embracing uncertainty, flexibility. What will you do with 3 months? Finalize the divorce, sell this house, figure out what I actually want from the next chapter of my life. She looked around the kitchen, seeing it with new eyes. Maybe travel with my photographer sister if she'll have me. The suggestion caught me off guard. "You want to travel with me? Is that so surprising? You've seen more of the world in the past decade than I have in my entire life." She hesitated. "Unless you prefer traveling alone." "No," I said quickly. "I'd love the company. It's just not what I expected." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "I'm not who I expected to be at 48 either. Divorced, starting over." She met my eyes. "But maybe that's not a tragedy." Our contemplation was interrupted by Sarah's phone chiming with an email alert. She checked it, her expression shifting to grim satisfaction. "Elaine, the forensic accountant found something." She turned the screen toward me, showing financial records highlighted in red. "Richard's been siphoning money from our joint investments for 3 years. Not just the recent withdrawals. Systematic diversion to an account in Boise under his mother's maiden name." "How much?" "Just over 200,000. Sarah's voice was calm, but her eyes flashed with cold anger. "Money we could have used for the fertility treatments he claimed were too expensive. For the adoption, he said we couldn't afford right now." The magnitude of the betrayal, financial and emotional, left me speechless. Elaine's filing amended petitions Monday morning, Sarah continued, and we have leverage now for settlement negotiations. Before I could respond, a car pulled into the driveway, a silver Mercedes I didn't recognize. Sarah tensed, moving to the window. "Charlotte," she said flatly. My hand instinctively reached for my phone. "Should we call the police?" "The restraining order only applies to Richard," Sarah corrected, "and I need to face her eventually." Charlotte Winters emerged from the car looking nothing like the confident, stylish woman I remembered from previous visits. Her normally perfect hair was pulled back haphazardly, face bare of makeup, eyes puffy from crying. She approached the front door hesitantly, visibly startled when Sarah opened it before she could knock. "You've got 5 minutes," Sarah said by way of greeting, and only because 15 years of friendship deserves at least that much closure. Charlotte flinched at her own words being thrown back at her. "Thank you," she whispered. I moved to leave the room, but Sarah caught my arm. "Stay. I want a witness." Charlotte's eyes flicked to me, then back to Sarah. "I understand why you hate me." "I don't hate you," Sarah replied evenly. "That would require emotional investment I'm no longer willing to make." The coldness in her voice made Charlotte physically recoil. "I deserve that." "Yes, you do," Sarah agreed. "Now say whatever you came to say. Your time is running." Charlotte sank into a chair, hands twisting in her lap. "It wasn't planned. We never meant to hurt you." That's what you came to say?" Sarah's voice was dangerously quiet. "The oldest cliché in the adulterer's handbook?" "It's the truth," Charlotte insisted. "Richard and I, it started last year, after your father died. You were so focused on work, on your mother, and Richard felt abandoned. So naturally, he turned to my best friend for comfort," Sarah said sarcastically. "How convenient." Charlotte flushed. "It was wrong, inexcusable. But it wasn't just physical, Sarah. We fell in love." The confession hung in the air between them. I watched my sister absorb this final betrayal, her face a mask of control. "Love," Sarah repeated, the word acid on her tongue. "Was it love when you counseled me to be more understanding of Richard's moods? When you suggested I cut back on work to save my marriage? When you listened to me cry about our failing adoption attempts?" Charlotte had the grace to look ashamed. "I hated myself for the deception, but not enough to stop," Sarah observed. "Not enough, to be honest. I was going to tell you," Charlotte insisted. "After Richard spoke to you about the divorce he was planning behind my back," Sarah interrupted. "The one where he intended to paint me as cold, career-obsessed, emotionally unavailable?" Charlotte's eyes widened. "That's not—" "Save it," Sarah cut her off. "I've seen the emails to his attorney. I know exactly what narrative he was constructing." She leaned forward. "Did you help him craft it, Charlotte? After all, who knew my insecurities better than my oldest friend?" Charlotte's silence was damning. Sarah nodded as if confirming something to herself. "You didn't come here for forgiveness. You came to manage fallout." Her voice hardened. "Are you two planning to go public once the divorce is finalized? The grieving husband finding solace with the supportive friend?" "It's not like that," Charlotte protested. "Richard and I, we're over. He ended things when you found out." This revelation clearly surprised Sarah. "He dumped you too?" Charlotte nodded miserably. "Said we needed to take a step back, that his priority had to be handling the divorce appropriately, that continuing our relationship would damage his position." A cold laugh escaped Sarah. "Of course. Richard always protects Richard." She stood, signaling the conversation's end. "Your 5 minutes are up." Charlotte rose shakily. "What will you do now? About the firm, our social circle?" "That's no longer your concern," Sarah replied. "But since you're wondering, I've accepted a 3-month sabbatical. By the time I return, this will be old news. People will have chosen sides. Life will continue." "And us?" Charlotte asked, her voice small. 15 years, Sarah. Can there be any way forward?" Sarah regarded her former friend with detached pity. "No, Charlotte. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. But if it helps you sleep at night, I don't wish you ill. I simply wish you gone." After Charlotte left, Sarah remained standing in the living room, utterly still, like a statue carved from ice. "Are you okay?" I asked gently. "No," she admitted. "But that was necessary." She turned to me, vulnerability breaking through her composed exterior. "He ended things with her, used her, just like he used me. Are you surprised?" "No," Sarah said after a moment. Richard always trades up. I was the promising young attorney when he met me, then the successful partner. Now that I've served my purpose, she shrugged. Charlotte was convenient during a transition period. Nothing more. The phone rang. Sarah's cell this time. She checked the number, then answered on speaker. Elaine, what's happened? Richard's attorney called. Elaine's voice came through, professional but with an undercurrent of satisfaction. They want to discuss settlement terms. Immediately. Sarah's eyebrows rose. Why the sudden urgency? Our forensic accountant spooked them. The Boise account isn't the only one we found. There's another in Wyoming under his brother's name, and evidence of a property purchase in Vancouver, Canada, not Washington, that doesn't appear in any of your financial disclosures. I watched understanding dawn across Sarah's face. He's been planning his exit for years. Appears so, Elaine confirmed. The good news is they're suddenly very motivated to settle quietly. On what terms? That's the interesting part. They're offering a clean split, 50-50 on all disclosed marital assets. You keep the Portland house and your retirement accounts intact. He keeps the vacation property in Bend and his business interests. Sarah frowned. That's surprisingly reasonable. Too reasonable, Elaine agreed, which suggests he's still hiding something significant that he doesn't want found during extended discovery. Sarah was silent for a moment, considering. What do you recommend? We counter. Full forensic accounting of all assets before any settlement. Complete financial transparency. He'll never agree, Sarah said. Exactly, Elaine replied, which forces him to either reveal what he's hiding or take his chances in court, where that video from your father's funeral becomes public record. The strategic brilliance was evident. Do it, Sarah authorized. And Elaine? Thank you. After ending the call, Sarah turned to me with renewed purpose. It's almost over. Richard is cornered, looking for an exit strategy. You're winning, I observed. This isn't about winning, Sarah corrected. It's about truth, consequences, and yes, a measure of justice. Sunday morning brought unexpected news. Elaine called early, her voice unusually animated. Richard wants to meet, face to face. Sarah frowned. The restraining order, in my office with attorneys present, Elaine clarified. He's offering full financial disclosure and a settlement that, frankly, heavily favors you. In exchange, he wants the assault video sealed permanently. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. He's desperate. Extremely, Elaine agreed, which means there's something in his financial records worse than what we've already found. Something he'd rather give you a generous settlement than have discovered. Or, Sarah said slowly, he's genuinely terrified of that video becoming public. After some discussion, Sarah agreed to the meeting, scheduled for Monday morning at Elaine's office. I offered to accompany her, but she gently refused. This is something I need to do alone, she explained. Final closure. Monday dawned crisp and clear, the first truly sunny day since I'd arrived in Portland. It felt symbolic somehow, as if the universe were acknowledging Sarah's new beginning. I hugged her tightly before she left for the meeting, dressed in one of her power suits, but with subtle changes. Sensible heels instead of the painful stilettos Richard preferred, hair loose rather than severely pulled back. Whatever happens, I told her, I'm proud of you. Sarah smiled, a genuine, unburdened expression I hadn't seen in years. Thank you for everything. She returned 3 hours later, her face serene, a manila envelope in hand. She sat at the kitchen table, carefully placing the envelope between us. It's done, she said simply. Signed, sealed, witnessed. Already? That was fast. Sarah nodded. Richard was motivated. Once he realized I had copies of the video stored in multiple secure locations, that fighting meant risking public exposure. He became remarkably cooperative. What were the final terms? She opened the envelope, spreading documents across the table. 60-40 split of assets in my favor. I keep the Portland house, my retirement accounts, and receive a substantial equalization payment. He keeps the vacation property and business interests, but must disclose all accounts within 30 days, with penalties for any undisclosed assets discovered later. And the video? Remains private unless he violates the agreement. Sarah's expression was one of quiet triumph. He also signed a non-disparagement clause. No more attempts to paint me as unstable or work-obsessed. I studied my sister closely. How did he seem? Sarah considered this. Smaller somehow, less imposing. A hint of satisfaction crossed her features. He couldn't look me in the eye, or you in the video, which Elaine played at the beginning of the meeting to set the tone. Did he apologize for any of it? In his way, Sarah said dryly. Lots of passive voice regrets. Mistakes were made. Things got out of hand. Boundaries were crossed. She shrugged. I didn't need his apology. I needed his signature. And Charlotte? Sarah's face hardened slightly. Apparently she's moved to Seattle. Richard claims they're completely done. She shook her head. Not that I care anymore. They deserve each other. Two people capable of such calculated betrayal. She gathered the papers, returning them to the envelope. The divorce will be final in 90 days. Uncontested, no court appearances needed. Just like that, 15 years of marriage over with a signature. The marriage was over long before today, Sarah said quietly. I just finally had the courage to acknowledge it. I reached across the table, taking her hand. What now? For the first time in days, Sarah smiled without reservation. Open, genuine, free. Now? We pack. I called a realtor this morning. The house goes on the market next week. That's fast, I observed. Where will you go? Sarah squeezed my hand, her eyes bright with possibilities I hadn't seen there in decades. I thought I might join my sister in Boston for a while. If she'll have me. Then, who knows? Maybe those sea turtles in the Galapagos need an attorney. In that moment, looking at my sister, scarred but unbroken, wounded but healing, I realized something fundamental had shifted. The divorce proceedings had stripped away not just her marriage, but the carefully constructed persona she'd maintained for decades. What remained was more authentic, more vibrant, and infinitely stronger than the perfect facade had ever been. The turtles would be lucky to have you, I said, meaning it. We all are. 1 year later, I stood on the balcony of my Boston apartment, watching Sarah prepare lunch in the kitchen through the open sliding door. Steam rose from a pot of pasta, the scent of garlic and basil filling the small space we'd shared since she sold the Portland house. My sister moved differently now, looser, lighter, as if she'd set down a heavy pack after a long journey. The tailored suits and painful heels had given way to comfortable jeans and practical shoes. Her once meticulously colored hair now showed strands of natural gray, small changes that reflected a fundamental transformation. Need help? I called from the balcony. Sarah glanced up, smiling. Just keeping an eye on the sauce. The bread should be done in 5. Domestic tasks that would have been delegated to housekeepers or meal delivery services in her previous life were now sources of simple pleasure. Sarah had discovered, somewhat to her surprise, that she enjoyed cooking when it wasn't crammed between client calls and court appearances. The divorce had been finalized without further drama, Richard keeping his part of the bargain once he realized Sarah held all the leverage. The video remained private, the financial settlement executed smoothly, the non-disparagement agreement honored by both parties. My phone buzzed with a notification, a new email from the Wildlife Conservation Foundation I'd been working with. I opened it, excitement building as I read. Sarah, I called. They approved the Borneo project. She appeared in the doorway, wooden spoon in hand. The orangutan habitat? That's wonderful. 3 months on site starting next month. I hesitated. If you're still interested in joining... Sarah's eyes lit up. Try to stop me. I already submitted my paperwork to the Foundation's legal aid program. This was the greatest surprise of the past year, watching my corporate lawyer sister reinvent herself as an advocate for environmental causes. She'd started small, offering pro bono services to local conservation groups, then expanding to international projects. Her expertise in corporate law proved unexpectedly valuable in navigating the complex regulations surrounding endangered habitats. From helping corporations avoid environmental regulations to enforcing them, she had observed Riley during her first case. Full circle. The timer beeped in the kitchen, and Sarah returned to rescue the bread. I followed, leaning against the counter as she moved efficiently between stove and oven. Heard anything from Portland lately? I asked casually. Sarah shook her head, draining the pasta. Not directly. Maria from the firm emailed last month. Apparently Richard's real estate business is struggling. The divorce scandal hurt his reputation in certain circles. Do you feel bad about that? She considered the question seriously, the thoughtful pause typical of the new Sarah, who no longer raced to fill silence with words. No, she finally said. His actions had consequences. That's justice, not vengeance. She divided the pasta between 2 plates. What about you? Any regrets about how everything unfolded? Now it was my turn to reflect. I wish I'd been braver sooner, shown you the messages when they first started, not waited until things escalated. Sarah handed me a plate. We both needed to grow. Me into someone who could face hard truths. You into someone who could deliver them. We settled at the small dining table by the window overlooking the Boston skyline. My apartment, once barely large enough for me, had somehow expanded to comfortably accommodate two sisters rebuilding their relationship amid the wreckage of Sarah's marriage. Mom called this morning, Sarah mentioned between bites. She's thinking of selling the Florida condo, maybe moving closer to us. How do you feel about that? Sarah smiled. Surprisingly okay. Our relationship is different now. Less judgment, more acceptance. She twirled pasta on her fork. Amazing what honestly can do. The past year had transformed more than Sarah's marriage status. Old family dynamics had shifted, long-held assumptions challenged. Our mother, initially sympathetic to Richard's version of events, had eventually seen the truth, aided by the discovery of inappropriate texts he'd sent to a cousin's 20-something daughter. She blamed herself at first, Sarah noted, for pushing me toward the successful path, the suitable husband. Did you blame her? I asked. Sarah shook her head. I made my own choices, stayed when I should have left, ignored red flags, built a life that looked perfect from the outside, but felt hollow inside. And now, a genuine smile spread across her face. Now I'm building something authentic, messy, uncertain, but mine. After lunch, we walked along the Charles River, enjoying the fall colors. Sarah had discovered a love of photography during our travels over the past year. Nothing professional like my work, just a hobby that brought her joy. She stopped occasionally to capture the light on the water, the vivid red of a maple leaf, mundane beauty she'd once been too busy to notice. I had lunch with James Reynolds last week, I mentioned as we walked. He apologized. Finally, Sarah glanced at me, surprise evident. After all this time? What prompted that? His divorce, I explained. Turns out his wife had been unfaithful for years. The confrontation with me was partly deflection. I shrugged. Karma, I suppose. Did his apology help? I considered this. Some. Mostly it reminded me how far I've come from being that person. The one who got involved with a married man, who ran away from consequences, who carried shame for years. Sarah nodded understanding. Growth isn't linear, is it? Sometimes we need to circle back to old wounds before moving forward. We stopped at a bench overlooking the river, sitting in comfortable silence as runners and cyclists passed by. The easy companionship between us had been the unexpected gift of the past year. Two sisters who had spent decades orbiting separate worlds now finding common ground in shared experiences. I got another job offer yesterday, Sarah said after a while. Private practice in New York. Environmental law. Partner track. Excellent compensation. Are you considering it? She tilted her face toward the autumn sun. A year ago, I'd have jumped at it. Status, security, a clear path forward. She shook her head. Now it feels like stepping backward. What do you want instead? Flexibility, purpose, connection. Sarah turned to me. Remember that small legal aid clinic in Berkeley we visited? The one helping indigenous communities protect their land rights? I nodded, seeing where this was heading. They offered you a position. Consulting basis. Half the money, twice the meaning. Her eyes were clear, decisive. I'm going to take it. After Borneo. California, I mused. That's a long way from Boston. Sarah bumped my shoulder gently with hers. Says the woman who spends half her life in remote jungles. Her expression softened. But yes, it would mean changes. For both of us. The implicit question hung between us. What would happen to our newly strengthened bond if geography separated us again? The year of living together, traveling together, healing together, had created a connection I was loath to sacrifice. Maybe it's time I had a more permanent home base, I suggested. The Conservation Foundation has an office in San Francisco. Sarah's eyes widened. You'd consider relocating? What about your Boston apartment? Your life here? I gestured to the river, the city beyond. This was never really home, just a place to store things between assignments. I turned to her. Home has become more about who I'm with than where I am. Tears gathered in Sarah's eyes. The emotion she once would have hidden now displayed openly. When did my little sister get so wise? I learned from watching you rebuild your life from scratch at 48, I replied honestly. Courage is contagious. We continued our walk as afternoon faded toward evening, making loose plans, considering possibilities. Nothing definite, nothing locked in. A welcome change for both of us. Sarah had learned to embrace uncertainty. I had learned to consider roots. That night, after Sarah had gone to bed, I found her sitting at the small desk in our shared living room, writing in a journal, another new habit of her post-divorce life. Sorry, I said, turning to leave. Didn't mean to interrupt. It's okay, she replied, closing the journal. Just finishing some thoughts. I hesitated in the doorway. Can I ask you something? Something personal? Of course. Are you happy? After everything, losing the life you built, starting over, was it worth it? Sarah considered the question with the thoughtfulness it deserved. I didn't lose a life, Liz. I escaped a prison I built for myself. She smiled, the expression reaching her eyes in a way it rarely had during her marriage. It's not always easy. There are days I miss the certainty, the structure, even the numbness that came with living on autopilot. She stood, moving to join me in the doorway. But yes, I'm happy. Not in the shallow, Instagram perfect way I once pretended to be. In a deeper, more authentic way that accommodates grief and growth, mistakes and meaning. Even with the public humiliation, the gossip, having to start over professionally, especially with those things, Sarah replied. They stripped away everything external I'd been using to define myself, forced me to answer the question, who is Sarah Winters when she isn't Mrs. Bennett? When she isn't partner at Caldwell, Ross and Whitney? When she isn't the perfect daughter, the perfect wife, the perfect attorney? And who is she? I asked softly. Sarah's smile deepened, reaching places within her that had been dormant for decades. Still discovering that. But I like her. She's resilient, compassionate, a bit messy, willing to take risks. She touched my arm gently, and she has an incredible sister who showed her that authenticity is worth fighting for. As she headed toward her bedroom, Sarah paused, looking back at me. Richard said something that day in the kitchen, something that haunts me. He said you would leave, that leaving is what you do. I flinched at the memory. Sarah, she held up a hand. Let me finish. He was wrong. You stayed when it mattered most. When I was broken and furious and lashing out, you stayed. When I needed truth, even when it hurt, you provided it. When I needed to rebuild, you offered foundation. The simple acknowledgement of my consistency, my commitment, my love, healed something in me I hadn't realized was wounded. We're both different now, Sarah continued. I'm learning to embrace change. You're considering putting down roots. Maybe we're finally meeting in the middle after decades at opposite extremes. As she disappeared into her room, I stood in the quiet apartment, reflecting on the journey that had brought us here. 1 year ago, I'd shown my sister messages that shattered her world. 1 year ago, she'd stood in her perfect kitchen and screamed at everyone to get out, her carefully constructed life collapsing around her. From those ashes had risen something unexpected. Not just Sarah's rebirth, but a sisterhood stronger than we'd ever known, a connection forged in crisis and tempered by truth. Tomorrow we would research housing in California, book flights to Borneo, continue building the future neither of us had imagined a year ago. But tonight, in this moment of quiet reflection, I felt profound gratitude for the painful truth that had set us both free. My sister from a marriage built on lies, and me from a lifetime of believing I wasn't enough. In the end, it wasn't about the shocking messages from Richard, or the video evidence, or the divorce settlement. It was about two sisters finding their way back to each other, and in the process, back to themselves.